And I was like, you know what? I'm just going all in at this. So I maxed out my credit cards to the tune of $50,000, had the $10,000 I saved up, used that as a down payment on some flips, and the rest was history. I made money on those flips, rolled it into the next deal, kept just reinvesting all of my cash into more and more deals. And I started out with one flip, then two, then four, then 8. You know, it just kept snowballing. So I made my first million in 3 years of house flipping from 2015 to 2017.
How did you get to this first $1 million? Let's take a step back. So you were making $1,200 a month as a professional baseball player.
Right.
Then you got to $1 million. That's a story there.
Yeah, so I was a low round draft pick. I signed for $20,000. So that's the first misconception. When you get drafted, it doesn't mean you made a lot of money. I got in the minor leagues, making $1,200 a month, and that was only while I was playing. So it was like $6,000 a year was my salary. I'll show you my W-2s. It was crazy. And
$6,000?
$6,000 a year was what I made.
Was there like a signing bonus?
Yeah, so my signing bonus was $20,000, but that was a one-time event. Every year after that, I was making about $6,000 a year. So I needed to get a side hustle. You know, I can't live on $6,000. So I become a realtor in 2010. That was the same year I got drafted. Realized I hated being a realtor because, you know, in 2010, the market had already tanked. No one had money. Prices were at all-time lows. And so every time I sold a home, it wasn't like anything, you know? You're in Austin or the Bay Area. In 2010, prices were like stupid. So I hated being a realtor. I hated working with clients, so I quit. Started getting into these side hustles, and one of those was couch flipping, which, you know, we could talk about later. But in 2015, I ended up learning to flip houses. I didn't have a lot of money. I had saved up $10,000 from couch flipping. That was like the most money I'd ever made. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going all in at this. And so I maxed out my credit cards to the tune of $50,000, had the $10,000 I saved up, used that as a down payment on some flips, and the rest was history. I made money on those flips, rolled it into the next deal, kept just reinvesting all of my cash into more and more deals. And you know, I started out with one flip, then 2, then 4, then 8. And, you know, it kept snowballing. So I made my first million in 3 years of house flipping from 2015 to 2017.
Liquid?
Not liquid, net worth, you know, because I was always still reinvesting my money back into the next flip.
Yeah.
So it was like the majority of my net worth was always just real estate.
I remember being a kid and people were like, yeah, I got rich in real estate. And I was like, what'd you do? Like, tell me the fucking secret. Like, I need to know this answer. So that first one, you took $60K and you bought one house with $60K, or what was the
Two.
actual?
I bought 2.
You quit being a real estate agent and you're like, well, I'm going to come back and do a flip.
Yeah, because I was always good at finding deals. I just hated working with clients because I would find them a deal and they were like, nah, I don't want to buy it. I'm like, are you crazy? This is such a good deal, but I didn't have the money to buy it. And so I finally realized that I could actually get what's called a hard money loan. They don't care about my taxes. They don't care about my credit score. They didn't care that I didn't have a job, you know? So they were just like, hey, if you get a good deal, we'll fund the deal. You just come up with 10 or 20%. And so that's what I did. Back then I found a deal for $100,000. I only needed, you know, $10,000 as a down payment. Then I needed to cover the rehab on my own. So that's where more money came from. And then I found another house. I think I paid like $135 for it.
Is it in Vegas?
In Vegas. Both these were in Vegas. And that was what I used the $60,000 for, as down payments for those homes.
How did you find these houses? And then were you nervous? Were you nervous? Because like, you maxed out the, I'm not a risky person. Even though like people think entrepreneurs are, I've never taken a risk.
Yeah.
All my stuff is pretty calculated, but you maxed out credit cards like without a lot of experience on this stuff.
Well, dude, I'm in Vegas, man. Like, I'm willing to gamble, dude. So when I was 21, I was playing a lot of, you know, craps and poker and blackjack and all this stuff because that was the only way I knew how to make money. I was like, I'll just gamble. Like, I could go tonight and try and make some money. Had my wins, had my losses. I used to play online poker too when it was big. I was doing that underage though. But after that, I just was like, man, like either I'm gonna take a risk and completely change my life, or I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because it's looking like baseball is not going to be the thing. I thought baseball was always the ticket to like getting rich and doing stuff. And then I never in a million years would have thought it was real estate because I pretty much failed at it as an agent. So at that point, honestly, I felt like I had nothing to lose. And I was like, if this doesn't work out, It is what it is, man. Like, I'll recover and rebound.
You had with 50,000 in credit card debt?
Dude, well, here's the other thing. I was confident in the deals, dude. I knew I don't want to say I knew they weren't going to lose, but they were great deals. You know, the first deal I bought, or no, this was the second one. I bought it for like $99,000. I put like $1,000 into it and resold it a week later for $135,000. Like, I knew I just had it so undervalued that it was almost impossible to lose. It wasn't like I was getting this big renovation that, you know, it turned from a $20,000 rehab to $100,000 and I lost all this money. Like, it was a very safe deal as far as flips go.
What do you think separated you from getting the $1 million in 3 years versus other people who are like, oh, I'm watching a Ryan video, I've maybe taken a course, or I want to do this stuff? Because you almost make it sound so easy that, like, do you have a better eye than these other people, or what's separating you?
Number one, I was willing to take a risk, like you said. Most people I talk to are not willing to do what I did, right? And so they have to grow much slower. Because you already know, the more risk you take, the more reward you can have.
100%.
But if you play it safe, yeah, you're playing it safe, but you're going to grow slower. That's just the reality. So, number one, they weren't willing to risk what I was willing to do. And even after success, I'd made, you know, a few $100,000. I was still at the same mindset of, I got to risk. I got to keep dumping it all back in. I still had my credit cards maxed out for years because I wanted that capital to go fund the next deal. So I kept my risky mindset the whole way. And I've honestly maintained that mindset in everything I've done.
How'd you find the first house or two?
So the first one I bought was on Craigslist because I was already flipping couches on Craigslist. So I would be on there anyway looking for deals. And so I saw this deal and just called the guy. I ran the numbers. I was like, you know what? This seems like a deal. Like, you know, you still have the uncertainty where you're like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. But I was confident that I was looking at the correct numbers. So I bought that one. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, another deal popped up. This one was on the market, MLS. I'm looking at it, I'm like, this looks like a deal too. And I still had like 30 grand remaining from, you know, all my credit cards. I go, you know what? I'm already screwed if like this doesn't work out. So I might as well just go really all in. So I bought 2 to start out, which I don't know that is super advisable, but I did it.
Yeah. How'd you celebrate when because you sold both made a profit?
Yep. So I actually sold the second one first and it made 25 grand. And then that first one I bought made 15 grand. I just remember selling it and seeing that wire hit the bank account. And I was like, wow, like this is literally life changing. I made $25,000 in 60 days. I'd have to flip so many couches to make $25,000.
If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly office hours where I help you with your business questions and giveaways. I gave away my Tesla a few months ago. I love you, and I'll see you out there. Amen.